I want to say I've been really impressed with this gentleman.
Yeah, he's very unique. Oh, straight business. Wow, so balanced. Kind of broke off there. I'm not sure if I like that illusion.
The grid works a little questionable there.
I think essence of the song here is not matching. Like that setup was dope. There's like a shakiness to the song that he's not really catching right now.
Oh man. Video's not loading for whatever reason. Okay. We're probably gonna be off on this now, but
okay, no worries, no worries. Yo, that depth with the platform there, really good, really controlled. I have a lot of things that I could that I would suggest to for this song.
Yeah, I think this is it's a difficult song, especially for his style.
Wow, very unique head liquid there. Oh, there we go. We got a little bit of the shakes. He needs more connection on those tuts. Those tuts are not connecting right now. He's cheating it. Oh, the setup into that tut was not the cleanest. We got like a mix up. What happened to
Oh
the song?
yeah, I'm seeing these tuts. Yeah.
I mean, when he gets into like the closer stuff, like the digits or like the pinches, they're like really pristine, like with his placements.
Oh, without a doubt.
Oh, pointers there need to connect. Logic there, very, very, just like by an atom. There are only a couple places where the logic falls apart, but it's like really good. Like 90%, 95% maybe. Like, I like how the... Like, is this the same song?
Yeah, it hit quite a tempo and sound change.
There we go. Pretty damn good. Yeah, what do you think?
I mean, it was a very impressive show. I think there are definitely a lot of crutches that are used in terms of connections and certain angles that he was hitting, especially with the tutting, right? You commented on it while it was happening. I saw it a couple seconds later. There were definitely some major missteps as far as placement of hands, fingers, and just how he was trying to transition through them. She has this very slow approach, like methodical flow. And I think it's really cool, but I also wish that there was that juxtaposition. Like I would like to see the speed as well, especially for a
That
song
was the
like
biggest
this.
thing that I was gonna say. Yeah, actually, I think that like Zugz is like resistant, like with his tech.
Yes.
It's more within that like slower, like heavier kind of realm, especially with like the smaller stuff, like everything. There's a slow resistance sometimes that I think is usually fitting, but when it's go time, it's not fitting. And then so
Right.
like one thing that he doesn't do that I think will like literally take him to like the next level are speed illusions. And you don't usually like hear this term a lot, but I'm using it right now. So speed illusions to blend certain moves or use as a transition to get to like places you normally wouldn't. Like literally like just using the sides, like you could use your peripherals like that, and even though that's not like as perfect logical, the speed within the trail to transition, so you get into like it's a different texture, right? The
Yes.
textures that Zugs is using every single time is the same. It's the same texture.
Yes.
And when you're used to the same speeds and the same texture, sometimes it could get boring. Not saying that Zugs shows are boring by any means,
No.
but it
No.
sometimes it gets what's the right word? You know what's coming. It's
Yeah, it's expected.
it's expected. Like I know what the illusion is gonna look like at that hit. So, and this comes through like limit testing, right? This comes through like, you know, I'm not sure where Zugs is right now in his journey, right? I think in the journey of like a Glover, there's like, okay, you learn everything, you learn the basics, the foundations, then it's like, you know, you get to a point where you're trying to develop and find your own style, right? I think that maybe that's in terms of finding your own style, that's where Zugs is right now. Maybe he found his style and, you know, maybe that's what he prefers, right? But like then there's like, okay, like that's like slow resistance Zugzwang. What about fast resistance Zugzwang? What is fast Zug? What skin is Zugs using today? Like the different type of feeling, right? That's how I think that's how you improve yourself as like an artist, right? And I say this many times, like a good times, like a good director, right? Maybe this director is really good at making horror films, but that's all they're good at doing is horror films. Like a good director knows how to make a movie on like drama, suspense, like drama, suspense, horror, like action. Like a good director knows how to put themselves in the minds of like different stories, right? But I feel like with Zugs, finding that like that speed aspect, I think is missing, just by a little bit, you know.
Agreed. You know, I think there, and I think it's funny. You actually had like somewhat of an opposite come up in your light shows, right? Because when I first met you and started seeing your videos, you had a lot of this very slow, methodical tech that you would go through, and at some, I think during the first like GMO and stuff, you had this very like resistance, like behind all of your moves, and you know, I think people are aware now. I mean, you can go light speed. Excuse my language.
Yeah, you can go light speed. Yeah, I think some part of that is like the part like the community, like the culture, right? Like I like usually it's very it's looked down upon if you're fast because you're probably not clean, right?
Yeah, that's fair.
But the thing, right? The thing, and we've said this before, right? Some, you know, if you can't do it fast, then you can't do it slow. Right? Yeah. But if you can't do it fast, you can't do it fast. Like
that's true.
So it's like you know, I would just, and this is just a suggestion, I feel like, right? This is just like an opinion, is for like to see that faster Zugs, that zoomy part of Zugs, that would just add so much more dynamic to his shows rather than
I think it's like it's not something that even needs to be like him completely changing his style, where like all of his tech is now done like at, you know, 50% faster than it normally is. But I think, and it goes back kind of to where you were talking about texture, like even just like when you're changing like angles with tutting, like boom boom boom, like if he had that like that quickness behind some of the angles that he changed, it would add such a new level of depth to the moves that he's trying to present.
Yes, I feel like there's a point where he looks safe. He needs to be riskier with his speed in some song because of the song. We're only saying this because of the song. Like these are really like it is proper. This is proper right now. It's happening. 17 seconds, proper. You could be taking lots more risks with the music right now. What is that? Right? So it's just the small like instances of lyricality, hitting the speed in that lyricality. Like there's a part where it's like she says every time, right? Oh, hold you tight. Never mind. Hold you tight. 24. hold you tight, right? It's like what she's saying,
Yeah.
hold you tight, like in a way where it looks like hold you tight, right? Like hold you tight, hold you tight. That it's riskier to hit that in the song, but we're kind of
Yes.
like we're kind of like at that level where we're kind of just flowing through the movements, which are pristine, which is good, right? But now we're looking at like the musicality aspect. Is it pristine with like perfect musicality, right? And maybe lyricality is something that I don't really see often. I think from Zugs.
Yeah, he seems to be a drum and snare musicality
Yeah,
styled Glover, which is not there's
paints.
nothing bad about it, but it's like sometimes drums and snares are going to be at a very rhythmic pace, whether that's fast or slow, and sticking to them solely will kind of make you a slave to that one pace.
Yes. Yes. Create different styles for yourself with different speeds, I would say. And that's
Yeah.
and this is like I would only suggest this to someone who is like at that level, like at a high level, right? Because
Yeah, agreed.
in the journey, let me tell you, okay, so like for a long time, I've been given shows, and I've been given the puppet show. You know what I'm saying? Like there was like the puppet show, like that mysterious dark, it was like the same thing, and you throw that show for 10 years and it gets tiring. That it's like,
Yeah.
that's why artists sometimes, like when making music, they change it up, guys. That's why they change
Yeah.
it up, because they're trying to improve. They're done with that era, so now they're trying to improve as an artist and try out different things, right?
You
And
have to take risks to see growth.
you have to take risks. Right. It's reinventing yourself. Are you
Yep.
able to reinvent yourself, or are you gonna just? And this is not like wrong or by any means, right? Sometimes people
No.
will often fall in love with their own style a bit too much. Like they'll
Yeah.
they'll they'll find something that really like they resonated with, and then it's like they'll stick to that style for like a really long time. And then like the moment that you like, or the moment that there's like a criticism on that style, then it gets very different. I would say to not fall in love with your own style. I know that sounds
So
kind of awkward to say, but like get used to building different. If you're at that top level, get used to building different styles.
agreed. Yeah, I think something that I've always like stuck to as sort of a mantra, especially with my own gloving, is like complacency is the death of creativity. Right? As soon as you
Yeah,
become comfortable and accepting of what your style is, and you think, okay, well, this is what I am, this is how good I am, and this is as far as I'm going to go, right? All of a sudden, you've created that plateau for yourself, and now
yeah.
it's much harder to improve, and your marginal improvements go from 10% every month to 0.5%.
There's this transition from 26 to 27. Okay. We go into a very intricate form, right? Where we release into a liquid depth kind of move, which it's not the worst. I would just say you have to watch out for this, because it is like a transitional break. Maybe the
Yeah.
fashion in which he did it, like I like the fashion in which he did it. I would just say to just be careful with transitional breaks like this, because
So
it is going from really technical to pretty simple. You know what I mean?
yeah, and I don't think there's necessarily anything inherently wrong with that, but what I
Yeah,
do think is he is kind of in a weird finger position, and I think because of that, he is starting to focus more on that hand that is going into that liquid form than his other hand, and he starts to kind of float, and you can see him lose like this 90 angle, like this pointer finger, ring finger, or pointer finger, middle finger angle. It starts to kind of go diagonal as he's bringing the
yeah,
liquid around, and
yeah.
he loses that form that he was in because he's more concerned about getting this hand out of the weird transitional position. Because, he had like this, and then he kind of like brings it
And
over,
then he kind of
and
like
like
slowly lingers, right? Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
yes,
which is it's a very interesting part because it's not necessarily wrong, but like, you know, that's a risk within itself because I don't know if this is like maybe he caught himself knowing that he's going super complex and he's still at the beginning, right? I think this kind of, if it is that, then that's really high IQ in my opinion because he understands when he's going too complex because it looks like he's teasing. You know what I mean? It looks like because he's going from 21 seconds, he's like deep in this like crazy form, right? The pinches. And then like I feel like he breaks off because if he's like lingering in that like tech for way too long, it's only 27 seconds in. I feel like I feel like he knows that he
I
has
can
to
get
break
that.
off because he's teasing it. You know, I mean, I don't know. If Derek is here, I want you to tell me. Like, is that because you understood? If you could put yourself in this, I'm not sure if he's actually in the chat. He probably would have said something. But I'm genuinely curious if he caught himself going too complex there, or because I don't think I've ever seen that transition from him before.
Yeah, it's not one that I've seen in the videos that I've watched from him during the
Yeah.
comp or any of the other ones I've seen. Um, eh, you know, I want to give him the benefit of the doubt because he is a very high skilled glover that
Yeah.
he did kind of self recognize like, hey, maybe what I'm doing is too much right now for the point of the song that I'm at, and I didn't want it to
Yes.
go this far.
Yes. And that's a really good characteristic of a good Glover. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? It's like you
yeah,
know how you because you know sometimes when we're learning tech, right? We're learning tech and um we're at a point in our gloving where we're able to actually do longer connections. Sometimes you can get carried away by just going through the connection for too long, especially in the beginning, that you don't know when to pull back. And so you don't that's a storytelling problem, right? That's a pacing problem. It's a storytelling
yeah,
musicality problem, or knowing how to break your pieces, right? Knowing how to make your pieces dumber.
yeah.
That's the balance is
Baby eyes it.
yeah, and I know that there are maybe a couple of Glovers who are the opposite, who like to start really complex and they don't got like some of the more basic moves down because they want to go super complex. Yeah, it's incredibly important to be like, okay, what does level 1 of my concept pool look like? What does level 2 look like? What does level 3
Yes,
look like? Okay,
that's a
and
great way to put it.
knowing how to place that within the show, right? You don't want to be doing your level 4 stuff at the beginning, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
And I think, you know, the way that he started out this video is like it's a huge risk because of this exact issue of like, are you at the level of understanding of the move that you're doing that you can immediately transition out of it in a way that makes sense, or is it going to trap you in that oversaturation of tech
yeah,
in such a big, you know, such a opening part? Because I really like this kind of like dial pinch and like going back and forth with the music that he did,
yeah.
but it's that risk of like, okay, so how do I get out of this? You know, he brings it to like
He
this,
goes to
right?
symmetry.
And how do I get out of this symmetry without it being awkward?
Right. And it's breaking apart your pieces. So it's like if you're there, right? Like maybe from here to like there isn't the best. Maybe there's like points in the show where like if he is there then he has to like close one, then close two, then close three, then get into a diagonal, then get into, you know, there's pieces that you have to break into. There's like more in betweens that could serve as transition points rather than from like A to G. You know what I mean? Right? It's a transitional thing for sure. But
Yeah.
that in that particular case, it's like not the worst. It's like it kind
No,
of
no.
works. It kind of works, you know?
Yeah, I think he got the point across. And I also want to say, after rewatching that part again multiple times, like this angle that I was talking about that I kind of had a problem with, I'm not sure if it was an intentional 45
Yeah, yeah, I know what you
But
mean.
if it is like more power to him, I would just like to see him utilize it more. Like I feel like he gets into this position with his I think it's technically his right hand. Um
Yeah, he's a
but
nerd.
it's almost immediately erased without any kind of like additive transition to it.
Right. And then
Let
like
me
yeah,
watch this again.
because I mean if you look at 26, if you look at 26, right? His pathing on his liquid, look at his hand that goes behind, right? The pathing is actually going like straight horizontal. You know, this is actually going straight
Yeah,
horizontal, but
it's
he
good.
has but he no, but then he has like almost kind of like a lingering 45. Like he his front hand is a
Yes.
lingering 45. But then it's
Yeah.
just odd. It's just odd to have that 45 there and then go into like, you know, like transition into like it's the way that he's doing it. It's weird to go from like a straight like horizontal, but like your hands at a 45. You know,
Yes.
because I have a move where I go straight horizontal, but I'm in the 45, but then I make it known that that line is there. You know what I mean?
Right. Right. You're
I
creating that
created the line
triangle.
first, but then the way that he transitioned it, it's like two pieces at the same time. Around like the middle part, right? I think the biggest thing is the air traces at some crucial points. Yeah, he grabs his pointer from his thumb. So it's like that alignment,
Yeah.
the air
Yes.
tracing, right? There's like a lot of cheating. And then here
It's kind of like here.
from
It's like
40 from 40 yeah, 44 and this whole sequence it's all air tracing. I would just be careful. Air tracing isn't all that bad. I just
no, it's
think
not.
that it's if you use it too much, then it will mess with your logic. But I feel like Zugz is like right here, it's like he did air tracing into like a contact, right? Like right here, like
Hmm.
he did 53 isolation, air tracing, contact, and it messes with his logic. Like it actually messes like right here, like he air traces. Okay, we're gonna have to do a frame by frame on him. Okay, he's isolating, air trace this isolation. So his thumb goes down and lands where? Is
On
it the
kind of on top of that finger,
it's like
right?
it's not even on top. It's like it's not on top, it's not
It's like
contact behind.
diagonal.
It's like diagonal off, right? And that fucks with the
Yes.
logic. And in this particular frame, his thumbs are diagonal. So then it's like there's at this specific area, that's the part where I could be like, you know, that it wasn't clean there, right? If I could argue that that wasn't clean, like right? Like that's not clean. You know what I mean? Like it's not perfect,
Yeah.
but his movement is clean. So it's harder to catch that
Yes.
type of stuff, right?
Yes.
It's harder to catch that because in the movement it looks pretty good, but when you really look deeper, okay, so he actually like land. He's supposed to land at like the tip of his or the back of his pointer with his thumb, right? But it's so quick because his movement's so clean that it's a little bit off. Look, the line is off. This line is off, right? But his movement again, the logic right there. He traces to his middle, and then the trace is off. He goes from to the top, but he's not really top. That's the risk with air tracing, guys. So, um, yeah, the use case for like, I think that's the thing is knowing the use case for air tracing.
So I think when you're operating on a much larger grid and you're trying to create this portrayal of space, I think that is where air tracing really has its place. But in that kind of move that you were just frame by framing, where he's kind of here and then he comes down and then he like wants to trace back out to this finger, and it's all this connected tech. I feel like any time that you have any kind of air tracing there, you're losing the illusion of what you want to be happening, and that's
Yeah,
that's a dangerous place to be if you're starting to feel real comfortable with that air trace there.
yeah. I don't even. Do you? How often do you air trace?
Only when I'm tracing along like grid patterns, right? So if I'm like
Oh,
tracing
you're
and then
pathing.
coming,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
yes, yes.
yeah. I don't even think I. like when it comes down to like my connections, I don't even think I air trace. I think it's all contact.
Yeah, because
Except for
in those,
exactly that situation where you said we're like I'm like outlining, especially with things like depth, like practice like having that pure contact. I think
yes,
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 because there's a lot of corners you might be skipping when you're relying too much on air tracing. But it depends because like Zugs is using it sometimes as a remote because
yeah, and
he'll
I
like
like that.
grab it.
I like
Yeah, he
that.
grabs it and he'll use it as a remote, which I think is a nice illusion.
I think that's his best use case for the air
Yes,
tracing.
yes, is a remote. Yeah, and well, and pathing, but specifically in that sequence, he did use it as a remote, which is great.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, as far as execution, like, what grade would you give this?
overall for the whole show.
Yeah,
Hmm, that's tough. I'd have to say it's it's wavering around 7 to 8 to me,
really?
and
Holy
it
shit!
yes,
Is it
and
because
that's
of the tutting?
because yes,
I see.
tutting and some of his liquid was it feels so his liquid feels very
It is
disconnected,
because it
and
is
I
disconnected. Yeah,
well and that and yeah and there are play again there's use case for disconnected liquid, but I think some of the things that he was doing didn't call for it, and it's more of a comfortability thing for him
yeah,
because I saw it a lot in his competition videos that I was judging as well for King of Future Base. There
yeah,
there was never really a point where I'm seeing like this full liquid connection from him, and
yeah,
it it takes away from the things that you can do with liquid, and it also strikes me as a execution error at certain
yeah.
times.
That's a big one, and that's one that I do want to talk about a little bit more. Is like if you're not connecting, like if you're not doing hard connections, like that's a level of complexity,
Hmm.
right? It's a
It
level
is.
of it like let's say for people who are like competing in the pit or like competition, like if you're doing this doing the like hard connections, right, to that is always gonna be better than this, like on a complexity level. Because when you're tracing, there's more lines to be traveled. There's more
Yeah.
lines you have to do.
You
And
can feel the connections in your
you
hand and the
feel it,
places that you
yes.
can go with it.
Yes, we're like this is easier. This
Yeah.
is the contact, this guys, this is really important.
It's
Contact,
difficult.
harder. No contact, easier.
Yep.
Think about that, right? So like if you're looking at execution and someone is air tracing all the time versus someone who is actually online having to find the discipline in the connection, different, way different,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah, it's a whole nother
It's a
level.
whole nother level. That's pretty much the yeah. Zux just has to connect way more. It's gonna mess with his logic a lot more. That's pretty much the biggest thing I would say about his shows.
Um, I would also like to see him. I would like to see him crutch himself to only flow for a little while
Mm.
because I think his whips and some of the implications that he's putting them into the show as are a bit it's a major juxtaposition to his tech because his tech is so complex, and then he's just throwing in a couple like standard
Yes,
whips,
standard whips or
and
standard liquid. Yeah,
yeah,
it's like
and I think
fillerish.
that's right. It's almost filler, and for the most part it is. And I think he has such a complex mind. I mean, you can see in the way he does his concepts that he thinks very hard about what he's doing. And I would like to see him put that same level of intention into that liquid, into those
Absolutely,
whips.
absolutely. And yeah, this is just a suggestion that I personally want to see from him. Zugs, if you're watching this, I want to see some depth dials and clusters.
Ooh, that would
Some
be sick.
some depth dials and clusters. When he gets into the depth, that looks really good. Like his alignment with his depth is really good. So like,
Okay.
if he implemented that, like that's like a whole nother level. You know what I mean? Like he gets into it just a little bit, just a little. No, bro, go into the deep end. I want to see what that looks like. That's like future, bro. I'm telling you. Big shout outs to all current Gloving Academy Patreon subscribers. Thank you so much for all the support. Seriously, guys. The Patreon's got weekly educational and never before seen content. So if you want to take your gloving to the next level and learn from me, come join the Gloving Academy Patreon.